This is the news and talk of Nevada.
That's the trouble around here. Talk, talk, talk.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
You are talking about the nonsensical ravings of a lunatic mind.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Now, the Dan Mason Show on News Talk 780 KOH and KKOH.com.
All right, we're here to talk about what really matters in Northern Nevada at 852-TALK and 800-564-KKOH. Welcome aboard. I'm Dan Mason. Thank you for being here. Lots to cover on the program today. At 4:30 today, give or take, Texas Senator Craig Estes will be here. He is going to be in town tomorrow. He's the featured speaker at Nevada Policy Research Institute's Policy Luncheon, which happens at the El Dorado at 11:30 tomorrow. And he's a state senator from Texas, and he's here to tell us why the margins tax is a bad idea for Nevada. And he should know. Texas has had one, and it hasn't worked out the way they thought it would. They got pretty good business growth in Texas as a rule, too, and they still don't like it. So what does that tell you? That's coming up later on the program today. Also, would you consider an all-you-can-eat taco bar to be offensive? Some apparently do. Tim Geithner, the former Treasury Secretary's new book is out, Stress Test, and as usual, it's getting a lot of attention from those who like it and, well, those who don't. There's a few of them out there as well. But it is Tuesday. That means it's Tech Tuesday. That means we welcome Bill Sickens back from wearetechnology.com. Welcome, Saw.
Well, thank you very much.
Good to have you back. Man, there's a lot to talk about. A lot of things going on. Net neutrality is out there. There is a plan that the administration wants to, relinquish control of the Internet, parts of it, to the rest of the world. Some folks think it's a good idea. Some folks don't. The iPhone 6 is coming soon. We'll talk about that. And kill switches for your smartphone. They're talking about it in California. Thought it was not going to happen, and now it looks like it's going to. And there's pros and cons on that one, too. So there we go. Let's begin with this Internet thing. Apparently, we're talking about ICANN. ICANN, which is they regulate Internet addresses. KKOH.com, whatever it might be.
Right. And it basically anything that ends in .com, .org, .net, those are regulated through a central authority. When you go on to register your domain name, what happens is it's processed ultimately one way or the other through that. And then whenever anybody goes out on the Internet to access your website, it does what's called resolving to where the server is.
Okay.
And that system has been the standard since the web was initiated in the early 90s to do that.
And we've more or less had control of this here in the United States. And they're talking about more of a global viewpoint of all this.
Yeah, and there's as with anything, there's two sides to any coin. But the thing of it is right now, it seems like in a day and age, an argument could be made that kind of keeping things underhand for security and everything else that's going on. And I know there's an argument that it'd be more secure to go the other way.
Yeah, that's the whole argument is who knows what the heck they're talking about.
Yeah, and that seems to come from both sides of the coin. My feeling is that I think it would be better to keep control of that, at least for certainly the near future.
Right.
The Internet is something that has always been about open communication. The United States has always been a place that's been about freedom of communication, and it seems like, at least from my opinion, that relinquishing that could certainly have an effect and a dulling effect on that.
Well, and the biggest argument that would support your position is there are countries out there, many of them, Russia would be one, for example, is freedom of speech and that sort of thing. It's not really high on their list, so controlling what their citizens are doing on the Internet is something that they're still doing.
Absolutely. And, in some of the countries where they really do block things like China, they have to go through a number of technical means to be able to even implement something like that. Having control over a registry would really increase their capability of censorship.
See, and I'm with you. I'm a control freak, so I'm kind of leaning toward let's keep the control part because it seems to be working pretty good at the moment.
Right, yeah.
So.
If they say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, so, and this global, viewpoint of everything, and in this administration in Washington, they've taken some of those positions. Some of them, let's have the United Nations have more control. And I'm like, no, let's not.
Yeah.
So that's on the plate. The Republicans in the Commerce Committee have apparently kind of put this on hold as of a vote that took place, I believe, maybe yesterday or today. I'm not sure, but they said, let's hold on and let's study this and make sure that before we cut this loose, we're okay with it.
And which is probably a very good idea. No, the formal request was to do a study and see what actually is going to happen here because, again, at the end of the day, there's a lot of variables that are unknown. But like with anything else, it's once you've given it away, you've given it away. There's no way to undo that. So you're if that's going to happen, it'd be real important to know exactly what the outcome of it's going to be.
Kind of like the Panama Canal.
Right, exactly.
See you later, and that's long gone now. All right, so I guess we'll see what happens with that. But the ICANN is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. Now, even the administration has emphasized that they're not going to do this until they're convinced that it is free from control by any government. Now, I don't know how you can guarantee that.
I'm not sure what the level of standard would be for that either. It's that's a good thing to say, but really at the end of the day, who's to make that definition?
Yeah, absolutely. We got a call on that, too. George is with us on News Talk 780 KOH. You're with Bill Sickens from WeAreTechnology.com. What's up, George?
Well, my point is that I spent 30 months with the UN in Kosovo trying to make my Bank of America payment because my IP address went through the Ukraine.
Oh, boy.
They wouldn't take it.
Yeah, okay. So you got practical experience on the subject then.
Absolutely. And I've worked very close with investigators for Bank of America as a city employee here.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Bank of America can't protect your money. That's why they turn right around and they reimburse you so quickly.
Gotcha. All right. Well, there you go. Thank you, George. Appreciate the phone call. There you go. That pretty much makes our point, I think.
Yeah,
right
absolutely.
there.
Absolutely.
All right. 852-TALK and 800-564-KKOH if you've got questions. All right. Onward. A lot of people have heard the term net neutrality, but they really don't have the slightest idea what it means. Although there's a lot of people that like it, and there's a lot of people who say, no. What's net neutrality all about?
Okay, well, net neutrality is a term that refers to the idea that, again, we've had with the Internet since its inception, that it doesn't matter who you are. If you put your message out on the Internet and someone chooses to access it, they can get to it. The routes to be able to do that are equal. So whether you're a big Fortune 500 company or a small mom-and-pop business, your access to everybody that's out there is equal.
Okay. All right. So the term fast lanes and slow lanes has been attributed to this. What are we talking about?
Well, this is something that's actually quite scary, really, when you look at it, because it could very, very easily change the nature of the freedom of speech that the Internet has been able to offer. And what essentially is going on is they would like to make a change so that basically you have to pay the provider that delivers the Internet connection to your house or business,
your ISP,
right, more money for more access. So what that ends up doing is if you have something that uses a lot of bandwidth, let's say take a Netflix, which competes with cable television.
Yeah, exactly.
So now the cable company, which in most of our cities provides a lot, if not the majority of our Internet connections, can say, hey, if we're going to continue to carry your signal, you need to now pay us. And if we don't like what you're doing, well, we're going to slow it down. The video is going to no longer work right, that kind of a thing.
Oh, you mean like, say, a competitor of sorts?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So thus Netflix, because they're getting more and more traction all the time, as are other companies who are providing content.
Yeah,
that is now competing with cable and TV and everything else, and you don't have to have that.
Right, you don't have cable. To really get cable is $150 a month,
and you want all the good stuff.
You want all the good stuff. If you're going to do it, you do it. And what's ending up now is that a lot of people are no longer using that method of being able to get to television and use services like Netflix and Hulu, so they just pick up the Internet connection,
right.
$30, $40 a month. Well, of course, like you say, that's a huge amount of competition, and we've just hit where 50% of the people viewing television shows now do so online, not on regular cable television.
50% now?
Yeah, just
Wow.
hit those numbers. So as a result, it's huge competition. In fact, 30% of the internet traffic in the evening is things like Netflix now. So from a standpoint of the cable company, you can see where that would be a concern.
Sure.
So instead of increasing, though, the service offerings and make what they have cutting edge, newer, and better, they're trying to eliminate the competition, it seems like, with this. And that would be a motivation to support getting rid of net neutrality.
Okay, so and in a sense, it's really not just about that. You're trying to keep better control of your business.
Absolutely, and actually, we're already starting to see some concerns from this. There are a number of the bigger companies finance startups, as a for example, and this is a report that came out of Intel Capital last week on this. In that. A lot of these venture capitalists are no longer funding companies that need bandwidth because, well, you can't pay the bill for getting the fast lane, so to speak.
Right.
So is your product now going to be viable? And that's a very, very early sign of the kind of damage that this could cause.
Well, and one of the fears, of course, is if you know what, it's the internet. Everybody's got access to it. It's supposed to be the same and equal. And I mean, it's not free from your ISP, but your access, once you've got it, is supposed to be free. So if you've got a competitor that's doing internet business and, you just kind of reach over and turn the switch and slow things down, now somebody says, well, wait a minute, I don't like this Netflix or whatever. It's too slow.
Right, it's too slow. Or let's take this a step further. The cable provider doesn't like the political message or something that's being sent out.
Oh, that never happens.
Of course not.
So there's a lot of implications here.
There's a lot of places that could go. And the thing of it is the internet in many ways has been a great leveler. Freedom, access to information. It's now up to the user to view what they want, that type of a thing.
Yeah.
And to do something that could really jeopardize that is really, in my opinion, very scary.
We talked about Netflix. Your company does a lot of work with Google. I know they're very concerned about where this might go, and they're one of the more vocal groups out there saying, "Hey, wait a minute, slow down."
Exactly.
Not the internet, just everything, just
everything around
else.
it. And all these things are based on the idea of innovation and being able to be that small startup in the garage, and these type of things.
The next Bill Gates.
Exactly. And all of a sudden, it looks like they want to take that ability away.
Bill Sickens here. WeAreTechnology.com.
This is the Dan Mason Show. He has a carefully cultivated team of sources. John Batchelor tonight at 9 on News Talk 780 KOH.
Going to be on the go this Thursday. I hope to see you in Carson City. The Senior Service Network 16th Annual Senior Celebration is from 9 until 1 at the Carson Nugget Thursday. Free health and information fair, an old-fashioned cakewalk, sponsored by St. Mary's. Going to have live 30s, 40s, and 50s music, a scavenger hunt, raffles, lots of other giveaways, too. I'll have the Port of Subs Patriot Prize Wheel with me, so you could win some goodies from us. Everything benefits local seniors. It's a 9 till noon live broadcast right during the Rush Limbaugh Show. Thursday, senior celebration at the Carson Nugget. I'll be there live on News Talk 780 KOH. Bill Sickens here from WeAreTechnology.com. It's Tech Tuesday on News Talk 780 KOH, and there's always new techs. Wearables, Bill, is still the hot topic, although it's probably moving slower, I guess, than when it first came out. Everyone was like, ooh, wearables. And then the pitfalls started popping up here and there and everywhere. But what's the latest?
Well, I think we're already starting to see an evolution. Back when we talked about this in January, we kind of said it would be the year of the wearables, and that's still holding to be true. But as you say, the rollout's a little bit slower. Google Glass is still not on the shelf at Walmart.
And we were talking about, it'll be available for Christmas. And then it just kind of quietly went away for a while.
Yeah, and to be fair, we didn't say which Christmas. No,
yeah, that's true. You work with Google a lot, so you're familiar with Google Glass. Where is it at in the evolution now? What have they been working on, and what's the timetable now?
Well, they're still working out some of the final things, although there was a retail day at the beginning of April. I believe it was actually on tax day. That
why not?
I can get your refund by your Google Glass. And they opened it up for a little while and basically sold out what they had, what they wanted to do. So, from that standpoint, there's definitely still an interest. There's definitely still some things to be done. I know that the user interface and some of that type of thing that's voice controlled, or there's a touchpad on the side,
right,
still has a few things to be worked out. And for example, there's other companies now that are actually trying to compete with that.
True.
One product that was just announced by Epson which is interesting, is
Epson, the printer folks?
The printer folks,
Okay.
yes. Heads-up display like Google Glass, except it has a display unit on both eyes. So for things like augmented reality and that kind of stuff, it would work really well. But it actually has a handheld control that is Android-based to try and fix some of the things that they're still having issues with on things like glass.
Right.
And so, like with any new technology, we're going to see a number of different solutions, I think, come out before we get the perfect one and one that everybody adopts.
So whenever something new like this comes out, there's always a certain number of people out there that got to have it.
Absolutely.
Whether it's really ready to go or works all that well, they go, oh, it's new. I got to be the first one to have it.
Absolutely.
It's like, the iPhone. Every time you get a new one, they're lining up outside the store. And most people go, really? Is it that? You got to have it like now, today?
And all over the world, they're camping overnight.
They are.
It's a big deal. And it's a big enough deal that actually with the iPhone, the new version of the iPhone, there's all kinds of rumors coming out. And it's seeming like we're getting some actually very credible ones that it looks like the iPhone 6 is probably going to release a month early, and which would put it somewhere around August.
Okay.
Of course, Apple has not confirmed a release date yet or anything
they never
like that.
do.
They never do. No. Maybe after it's released we'll know, but for sure. But it's
how long do you want to camp out?
Yeah, absolutely. Although it's summer now, it's nicer out. Anyway,
it's a little easier.
But we're looking at the big change on the iPhone 6 is looking like it's going to be screen size. And
is that the new thing now? Everybody wants bigger
screen, larger screen.
I saw somebody with, I don't even know what kind of phone it was the other day. I looked at it and I'm thinking, really, it's bigger than my hand.
Right, absolutely.
It's like, no.
I know Samsung has a model that it's like a 6.5-inch screen or something. I mean, it's just huge. And it seems like if you're using your headset or something like that, that's one thing. But I'm not sure I'd want to hold that thing up to my ear. It'd be, I don't know, it just seems like it'd be awkward.
Yeah, they're rather large. It's like you might just hold your iPad up there.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so iPhone 6, other than the bigger screen, what else are they talking about?
They're talking about a whole bunch of new features just to go along with it. Probably a new version of the iOS. We seem to see that when the new phones come out. Nothing been confirmed on that yet, but most likely that'll be there. Some of the features I think we're going to see on the new iPhone, they're doing a stabilizer for the camera. We're going to see the same number of megapixels that they currently have, but new technology that would have been like Steadicam was a few years ago and that type of a thing. Another interesting feature that's being talked about is something called near-field communications, which is a payment gateway via your phone.
Oh, okay.
And right now you can buy things via iTunes and that type of stuff. That already exists.
Yeah.
But with these type of technologies, you can actually pay at the point of sale. You no longer need a separate card or anything like that. It's a virtual wallet that handles it, but the actual technology is a chip that's built into the phone that can communicate with the merchant's device.
Oh, so that thing that attaches to the phone that only works about half the time, that's out.
That's out,
okay.
Yes.
It's a great idea, but like a lot of things, it was new and sometimes it worked really good and sometimes not so much. So we're going to build this into the phone now.
It's going to be built into the phone. You actually see it on certain Android devices already, so it's not totally reinventing the wheel, but it is to have a standard. And when Apple adopts standards for these things, then it seems like it becomes what the industry uses.
Yeah, it seems to work that way. Security, access, the fingerprint stuff. What do they got? Are they updating that a little more too?
One thing, there definitely will be a fingerprint scanner. That's a given. But one of the things that they're talking about is a new kind of glass that's made out of a crystal. It's something that hasn't really been used before because of the cost of production, but they've come up with some things to try to address that.
Okay.
I think initially we're going to see it on the higher end model of the phones. Currently what's used is something called Gorilla Glass, which actually was a huge improvement over what they had before because it doesn't break anywhere near as easily as it used to.
That's a good thing, yeah.
But this is kind of taking that to the next step. And one of the interesting features, and bring up the fingerprint scanner, is that it actually is technically capable of reading your fingerprints through the glass. So it would no longer require the additional sensor to do it.
Oh, so now we can have, the iPhone 6, the official phone of Reno CSI.
There you go. Absolutely, yes.
Bill Sickens, wearetechnology.com. Speaking of the iPhone, in California, they've been talking for a long time about this kill switch for smartphones, and it looked like it wasn't going to move forward, but then it came back. So we'll talk about that and much more on Tech Tuesday Here on the Dan Mason Show at News Talk 780 KOH.
You're hearing Dan Mason, Mind-Opening Mornings with Ross and Monica on Reno's Morning News from 5 till 9 on News Talk 780 KOH.
Join the Breaking News Text Club at KKOH.com. During May, you got a chance to win free catering from Port of Subs. With graduations coming up, June weddings too, you need a quick and tasty way to take care of your guests. So just text 780 KOH to 68683 to get breaking news, special offers, and more. And a chance to win sliced fresh catering from Port of Subs, exclusively for new and current KOH Text Club members. Message and data rates may apply. Text 780 KOH to 68683 and join right now. Tech Tuesday on the Dan Mason Show with Bill Sickens from WeAreTechnology.com. Before we get to the rest of the news, how's business? You doing apps for everybody,
right?
Man,
it's proving to be one of our busiest years, which is wonderful.
There's a new app for something every day.
Yeah, and it's becoming such a necessary part of business. Plus, the prices have come down enough to where small businesses can really afford to get out and increase their return on investment.
Well, and you find with a lot of businesses, I mean, your advice has got to be, if you don't have an app, you better start thinking about it, or you're going to fall behind. Right?
Exactly. It's like not having a Yellow Page ad 10 years ago or a phone 20,
Oh, so, what was that?
Yeah.
We still have those. All right, let's talk smartphones and kill switches. Now, this is something that's been talked about for a while, and the point is you can remotely disable your phone if somebody steals it.
Basically, that's it.
That's the short version, but it's not quite that simple, is it?
Yeah, it goes well beyond that. And the idea with this being is that they are having a lot of problems in public places where someone will come up and grab the phone from the person using it and run off with it.
Yeah.
You have something that's worth a couple $100, so there is a motivation there to go out and steal it. So the idea being that, my phone's been stolen, I have a way to be able to go on and disable the use of it remotely.
And now it's no good to anybody.
So the idea is that they're hoping at least that will combat the theft.
Right.
Which may or may not be possible. The problem is the moment you do that, you open up a can of worms.
How so?
Well, for one thing, if you have the ability to remotely disable the phone, including everything, including emergency services, and you have a hacker get in there, that could be a very bad thing. You could disable someone's lifeline very easily in that process.
Somebody could disable your phone even though it hasn't been stolen.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. That's not good.
At the end of the day, it's like anything else. The phone is basically a small computer, and it's responding to what somebody's doing remotely. So if the bad guys can get in there and trick it into doing something else, thinking it's you, then like with someone, same thing, if they can hack your email account or that type of a thing, they could conceivably shut the phone down or make it do something else.
Right. Now, and most of the phone manufacturers, if I understand it correctly, aren't in favor of this.
Yeah, they're looking at it from a standpoint. I think one of the big things is as a feature that would be optional for any of us to use if we chose to. That's one thing. But where they're going with this is actually making it a law so that it has to have that capability.
Well, that's a great question. Is it necessary to have a law in order to do this? In other words, they're trying to force it.
They're trying to force it, and that's exactly what it is. And this has been very controversial. About a year ago, there were some protests and things going on, and that in of itself is its own story. But BART shut down cell phone access on their trains. And
that's right, when the strike was going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, one of the big fears here is that if we have the ability to remotely control and shut down a range of devices, that could be done and used, well beyond what it's meant to do.
Oh, can you say NSA, for example?
Of course.
No, nobody would think of that. Because you hear that the phone manufacturer's against it, and one of the first thoughts that somebody might have was, well, gee, wouldn't they sell more phones? You'd think they'd love this.
Right,
but
and not be able to sell the stolen phones and all of that. And like with anything else, new technology, yes, there are positive things that it would be able to achieve, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff you have to take into consideration whenever you do anything like that.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot more potential issues here in the privacy realm. Yeah. And let's be honest, there's an awful lot of discussion going on in the privacy realm, and it changes almost every day.
Absolutely.
Which reminds me, Apple, Facebook, we call them requests when the NSA, the government, the Justice Department, whoever it may be, wants that telephone information. The information the NSA, they're storing in all these computers, but we won't look at it as long as you're not doing anything wrong. some of the companies are resisting those requests from the government now.
Yeah, it's getting to a point that you're looking at these bigger companies, and when this all came out last year on what was going on with that, and then they started being even allowed to release the statistics on the, quote, requests that were being made, and you start looking at the actual quantity and what the information is.
Big numbers.
It's big numbers.
Yeah.
It's really big numbers. And I can see where, especially, again, the Internet is something that's been developed here in America. It is a thing that we have that's the idea is freedom and being able to have a free exchange of information. And it certainly starts to dull that down when you think that, boy, everything I'm doing is being watched. Yeah. And I could see where the companies that are in many cases responsible for this innovation would be very much in a standpoint that they would resist these type of requests.
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of a classic case where in the very beginning this seemed rather benign. Oh, yeah, we can help out law enforcement. And they just kind of quietly went along with these requests, demands, whatever you want to call it. But now as they've seen the numbers that we're talking about, and really they're hearing from their customers is what's really driving this, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the idea that if I go out and, log on to Facebook and my phone has the GPS location of where I am when I post that, now all of a sudden that all can be tracked, and that is. Every message that's being put out, every phone call I'm making is, not necessarily the content of the call, although that's still being disputed.
Right.
But certainly the number I called, when, how long, all of that information is being recorded. And again, you're looking at it where the big companies are saying, let's slow down here. What's going on?
Well, and it's not just telling the authorities we don't want to give you the information. They're telling the customers, oh, by the way, they're asking for this information about you.
Right, exactly.
So now, the law enforcement side says, well, wait a minute, now you're tipping off the criminals.
Right, exactly.
So,
and it's something that, you have to look at it and see. It's one thing to catch the bad guys, but whenever you start abusing those privileges, which inevitably is going to happen in these type of things, it becomes something that people should very much be concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful. And the NSA is a great example. Say, well, yeah, we've got all this data, but as long as you're not doing anything wrong, we're not going to look. Well, that's great, but, the IRS wasn't supposed to target conservative groups more than progressives either, but somehow it happened.
It's amazing how these things... it's not necessarily the goal, but at the end of the day, it definitely is where you end up with this. And it is, again, it's a huge concern. Services like Facebook, if you go on and you do a status update and you don't actually post it, what you've typed in there is actually still saved by the system.
Yeah.
So even though it's not live, or if you start to send a text message, it's saved by the system. It's still out there.
It's there somewhere.
Yeah.
Are the companies going to win this, or is the government going to keep pushing back?
I think that what we're going to do is hopefully see something that's in the middle. At least that seems to be where we're headed. Is more and more of just people using the internet are aware of what's actually going on. As the numbers start coming out and we see what's really happening out there, there is a pushback that's already starting to be felt, and hopefully what it's going to do is balance it. But we'll see where it goes.
We're seeing some pushback in the Windy City in Chicago. It's being described now as a surge in security cameras, and the term massive surveillance system is getting used. Now, again, this is something that started rather benignly. It's like, oh, we're going to put these cameras up so we can catch you guys running red lights.
Right.
And now, apparently, it's like 24,000 cameras out there in Chicago?
Well, and this is a primary example of something that's really going too far in many ways, because one of the examples that's happening with this is, like you say, the red light cameras and all that type of thing. And when this was first put in, it's okay, we're going to, try to minimize accidents and on and on. Well, what they're doing now is installing 360-degree movable pan, tilt, zoom cameras in high definition.
Oh, they're not just focused on the car coming through the intersection anymore.
In fact, and you have someone in, probably law enforcement or wherever it's monitored, that has now control over this. So now they can see everything in a full circle view of where that traffic camera is.
It says 2/3 of those cameras now are equipped with that.
Absolutely, and it's growing.
And again, it started very benignly, and it was sold to the public that way too. This is going to increase traffic safety.
Yeah, and one of the weirdest things is something called blue cameras, which are now popping up in the residential areas. Chicago, again, is an example of that. Right. So what's happened is people are still committing crimes. They're just doing it out of view of the cameras. But what gets really scary is when you think about it. A few years ago, I had traveled to the other side of the Iron Curtain, and it just had come down and all of that. And on each street, you saw a giant surveillance camera. And we just really don't need to go that direction. And, at the end of the day, the statistics and the studies that are being done on all of this are showing that does the crime rate change? Well, not really, but you're being watched, and at the end of the day, where do we want to go?
Yeah, a lot of people honestly don't think too much about this because their reaction is, well, if you're in a public place, you really don't have any privacy anyway, so what's the problem?
Well, and I think that we're at a time now where the acceptance of surveillance is a lot more than it ever used to be, because it's just part of the culture. So you're right; you tend to ignore it. You tend to not really think about it that much. But next time you're driving around or walking around, look, and everywhere, if you're even here, you're going to see a camera.
Not too many places you can go where you're not going to see them. And the mayor of Chicago knows firsthand how this can work because apparently his motorcade has been caught speeding or running red lights 17 times by the camera. Bill Sickens, wearetechnology.com. That is Tech Tuesday for today. Thanks for being here again.
Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
We'll catch up to you soon.
Now, back to Dan Mason, unfiltered and unafraid. The Savage Nation. Weekdays at noon on News Talk 780 KOH.
Join Classic Chevys of Reno and News Talk 780 KOH Saturday, May 24th. The second annual Summer Salute Car Show is coming up. It's on the grass at Rancho San Rafael Park. Memorial Day weekend is when we honor our veterans, of course, and the Summer Salute benefits Reno's Veterans Guest House and Operation Feedback. We're asking for a $10 donation to show your car, but it's open to all makes and models. Mission is free for the public to just come on out and check them all out. Be plenty of vendors and good times for all. Last year, over 400 cars. Raffles, silent auction will be going on, too. And I'll be on hand between 9 and 3, Saturday, May 24th, Rancho San Rafael Park. Get more details at KKOH.com. From our Department of Cool this afternoon, report today that said the flagship of Christopher Columbus, the Santa Maria, may have been found. I saw that and I go, wow, that's 500 years ago. It was, of course, wrecked in the Caribbean, but investigators think they have discovered the long-lost remains. Bottom of the sea off the north coast of Haiti. This could be one of the most important underwater discoveries ever, if it's correct. But apparently the evidence strongly suggests that it might be it. Now, apparently, back in 2003, there were some discoveries made by other archaeologists, and they said that, well, a fort, the Columbus Fort, was nearby, and they took this new information, a probable location of that fort is what I should say. So they had this information, and they used data in Columbus's diary, and they worked out where they think the wreck should be. And it was an expedition like a decade ago, and they found it and took pictures, but they didn't realize what it was at the time. Now the evidence, they say, is substantial. It's in the right location in terms of what Columbus wrote in his diary, and he described the wreck in relation to this fort. So I can see it. There's going to be a TV special. Hope it'll be more interesting than, finding Al Capone's vault. Remember that, Geraldo? Keep Geraldo away from this one. But that's cool. They found the flagship of Columbus. That's big time history right there. All right, that's hour number one. Thanks to Bill Sickens, wearetechnology.com, being here for Tech Tuesday. Texas Senator Craig Estes in the next hour on the margins tax and why it's a bad idea. Plus, what's up with Tim Geithner? Did the administration ask him to lie on the Sunday talk shows? Nah, that wouldn't have happened, would it? You channeling Susan Rice, I don't know. That's coming up. Thanks for being here. Back with more after the top of the hour. We are back. Let's talk about what really matters in Northern Nevada. 852-TALK, 800-564-KKOH. Hey, aren't you Jay-Z? Didn't Beyonce's sister beat you up today? I just came across that video surfing during the top of the hour. It's like, my goodness. Must have been a slow day at the hotel security office. But, hey, there you have it. I'm Dan Mason. Thank you for being here. Our phone numbers are 852-TALK and 800-564-KKOH. In about 30 minutes, Texas Senator Craig Estes is going to be here. And he's going to tell us why the margins tax is a bad idea here in the state of Nevada. He will be in town tomorrow for the Nevada Policy Research Institute's policy luncheon that they have. It's at the El Dorado at 11:30 tomorrow. Craig is going to be here. He's going to talk with us for a little preview, and he's going to answer the question that we want to know. Why is the margins tax such a bad idea? And he'll let us know right here on News Talk 780 KOH. Tim Geithner, the former Treasury Secretary, has got a new book out. And as is typical, if you are a major official in any administration and you put a book out there, it's going to get noticed by those who like what you wrote and those who will tell you the parts that aren't truthful, at least in their opinion. There's plenty of that out there. What I found was real interesting. There was a piece in Politico about this a couple of days ago, and it said Geithner didn't sound like somebody who enjoyed his time in Washington very much. Friends would ask him what the city was like when he was serving as Treasury Secretary, and he would say, "It's worse than you think." Speaking for myself, I doubt it. I think it's pretty bad in Washington, D.C. Stress Test is the name of the book, Reflections on the Financial Crisis. He did have a front row seat to all of that. So he has an awful lot to say. Yeah, he didn't think much of his critics either, according to Politico. He said they're either political hacks, mostly Republicans, of course, or woefully unrealistic populist scolds with unicorn-type theories about what should have been done. Those are the people on the left. I'm like, well, that's creative. I guess if you're going to write, you gotta be creative. But the thing that really got my attention, especially with all of the discussion about Benghazi, and it was the result of a video. Geithner said the White House wanted him to lie on the Sunday talk shows. His words. Scheduled appearances, of course, on the Sunday talk shows. Members of the administration do that often. Here's what he wrote in the book, and I quote, "I remember during one Roosevelt Room prep session, before I appeared on the Sunday shows, I objected when Dan Pfeiffer wanted me to say Social Security didn't contribute to the deficit. It wasn't a main driver of our future deficits, but it did contribute. Pfeiffer said the line was a dog whistle to the left, a phrase I'd never heard before. He had to explain the phrase was code to the Democratic base, signaling that we intended to protect Social Security." So, as the debate about Benghazi continues and the talking points that Susan Rice was instructed to use, here's another example of this is what goes on. Now, I'll say this. I'm not going to pretend the Obama administration is the only administration that's ever done this. This is what politics is. Politics is about controlling the message at whatever level you're at. The Senate, the House, a member of the administration, the political parties themselves, the Democrats and the Republicans. This is what's going on all the time. Which doesn't excuse it. Which doesn't make it right. It's part of the problem a lot of people are having with the way things are in America today. Is anybody telling us the truth? That's the question you got to ask yourself. And how do you feel about that as we look forward to an election year? We've got a primary here in our area, less than a month. The midterm elections coming up in November, they're going to be really important. I have encouraged all of you, and I'm going to keep on doing it, to take a really hard look at what's going on and figure out what it is you want your country, your state, your county, your city to be looking forward. Because things are a little different now than they have been. And many times in the past. Oh, we've had recessions before. Officially, this one is supposed to be over. Let's just say struggling economy, okay? Let's just use that term for the moment. It's been 5 years now. 6 or 7 if you go back to the year 2007, when most everybody agrees this all got started while President Bush was still in office. And we're a long ways down the road, and I've said this before, I'll keep saying it, I don't believe we've recovered from anything. Oh, yeah, I know. The unemployment numbers are down to, 6.3% in the rest of the country. Not here. We're still between 8.5 and 9. Really higher in places like Lyon County, where, we got this little old copper mine we'd like to open, but these guys in Washington can't seem to get off their duffs and figure it out. We got 12 to 13% unemployment in Lyon County. How are you folks going to vote? Because I can't think you're real excited about those that are there right now that don't seem to care whether you can go to work or not. There's an awful lot of lousy stuff going on that relates to the government. It's too big, it's too bloated, and it can't function well because of it. And whether you're conservative or liberal or independent, I don't care what you are, you need to be able to see that. You cannot objectively look at government as a whole and say it's working well. For a variety of reasons, but you can't make that argument. It's one of the most frustrating things as we listen to those on the left who continue to think this administration knows what it's doing. Cuba Gooding Jr., show me the money. Or in this case, show me some results. Give me some sort of an indication that what you're doing is going to work. Because I'm tired of waiting. And that's the argument we hear most of the time. Oh, things are getting better. Things are improving. Yeah, every week, every month. Oh, things are improving. Yeah, because more people gave up looking for work, not because they found it. I think these unemployment reports we see every week, I think they're a joke. We're just playing accounting games to try and convince you that the policies in place are working. Policies in place are not working. They have not worked. Because if they did, we wouldn't have 8.5% unemployment in the state of Nevada. It would have gotten better by now. And I'm sorry, I'm not interested in slow, steady growth. I want to get there now. I want to get to the finish line. Because we got lots of other problems in America. Lots of other problems in America. Immigration, illegal immigration. It remains a big, serious problem. I think talking about it's a waste of time while people can't find a job. Don't tell me you want to bring more immigrants into the country, legal or otherwise, when we've got unemployment that's still incredibly high in many areas of the country. What do you want to bring more people here for? Then we get we've got to have more visas so we can bring smart people here, high-tech people, because, apparently Americans are too stupid to do most of these jobs. Is that what you want to hear from your government over and over again? That we don't have enough educated people in America? Well, maybe you ought to solve that problem, too. Hey, let's throw some more money in education. That's working out well so far. Ed, you're on News Talk 780 KOH. Go.
Hey, Dan, I think the real truth of the matter is that we have a president who his number one goal in becoming president was to destroy the economy of this country, because he's done absolutely zero to bring any jobs into the country. He's trying to close down all the coal-fired plants, so he's going to get rid of all the coal miners. Of course, the coal miners were at least the only union that was smart enough to say, we don't think we want to support this guy in 2012. And he's not done anything. Anything that would help to bring a job to America, he's turned it down. Unless it's somewhere there's 3 people get hired for some kind of green job at $1 million apiece, that's the only thing he's interested in. He just wants to destroy the country.
Thanks for the call, Ed. I got to be honest. I don't want to believe that the President of the United States, whoever he may be, wants to deliberately destroy the country. Let's be honest. That's heavy duty. I actually think it's worse. I think he still actually believes the policies he has implemented and is following are working. I think he's deluded himself into thinking everything's okay, even though it's not, and everybody is telling him it's not. Oh, just give it more time and everything will be okay. No. You've had enough time. That's why something's got to change come this November.
Now, more of the Dan Mason Show, the John Sanchez Show.
I'm just an average guy like you.
This afternoon at 5 on News Talk 780 KOH.
Yeah, stick around. Average Guy will be here at 5 o'clock with the Wealth Advisors. All the latest real estate news with John and the crew, and analysis as well, right here on News Talk 780 KOH. You are invited to the grand reopening of Reno Rock Transport. It's happening Friday and Saturday with a 20% discount on all landscaping materials. And I'm going to be out there on Saturday, and I hope to see you. We're going to celebrate their brand new location, 3900 North Virginia Street in Reno. I'll be on hand Saturday, 11 till 2. So will Paulie's Pizza with New York-style pizza and wings and hot dogs. Music, too. It's the grand reopening. Reno Rock Transport, 3900 North Virginia. I'm going to be on hand Saturday, 11 to 2. Please come by and say hello. I'll have the Port of Subs Patriot Prize Wheel on hand as well. 852-TALK, 800-564-KKOH. In just a few minutes, Texas Senator Craig Estes. He is in town for Nevada Policy Research Institute's Policy Luncheon, 11:30 tomorrow at the El Dorado. And he's going to speak on the margins tax in Texas, the mistake, and why Nevada shouldn't go down that path. He'll be here in just a couple of minutes. You know, in the meantime, the reason a lot of people don't like the margins tax, also known as, by the way, the Education Initiative. That's how it's going to appear on the ballot, so make sure you know that. I don't want anybody walking into the voting booth and saying, oh, yeah, I hate that margins tax, but I want to help education, so here. No, pay attention. And as we talk about the margins tax and why it's a bad idea, the reason it is it's a business killer. It's a jobs killer. We were just speaking a few minutes ago about how many years we've been struggling economically in America, and especially here in Nevada. Business needs to expand. Business needs to grow, so they'll hire more people. The 2014 Best States for Business from Chief Executive Magazine. Top 10. We're going to talk to Craig Estes in a few minutes. Texas is still number 1. Florida's 2, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Indiana number 6, Arizona, and number 8's good old Nevada. This was a survey of CEOs, the best and worst states for business, so we're still pretty high on the list. He's here a few minutes early, so let's get right to it. Senator Craig Estes from the state of Texas. Senator, hello. Welcome to the Dan Mason Show. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Dan. Great to be in Nevada and looking forward to coming up to Reno tomorrow.
Yeah, the El Dorado, 11:30, Nevada Policy Research Institute, their policy luncheon. And by the way, if you want to see the senator tomorrow, grab the telephone and call NPRI 702-222-0642. You can email npri.org as well. Senator, you've got firsthand eyes and ears on the margins tax that you have had in the state of Texas for a while, and you're coming to tell us why this is a bad idea, correct?
Yep, happy to do it. And by the way, congratulations on being in the top 10. That's great, and we've been on the top of the heap for a while, had some good success down in Texas. And I wanted to come here to tell you that it may not be the wisest thing to do to institute a margins tax, and tell you a little bit about Texas's story.
Okay.
Now Texas is a little different than Nevada in this sense. Well, one, we're a lot bigger, of course, but we're freedom-loving conservatives are rampant throughout our state as they are yours. But in 2006, we had an old business franchise tax that was pretty much a voluntary tax, if you can believe it. You could organize your corporations in such a way that you could get out of paying it. So there were a lot of moving parts to this, but basically it was to revamp this old franchise tax with a new business margins tax, and then at the same time draw down our property taxes by 1/3, from $1.50 per hundred to $1. So that was very attractive to a lot of people. But here's how it worked out. The property taxes were cut by 1/3, but appraisal districts came in and jacked up the appraisals. So someone that might have a tax savings of $4,000 ended up having a tax savings of only $400 on the property tax side. The new margins tax drew in a lot more people, and it was not voluntary anymore, but we started out with an exemption of under $300,000. That has now been changed. But I kind of, Dan, had an aha moment several years, and I supported that bill. What conservative wouldn't support a tax shift and cutting the property taxes in such a drastic way?
Well, it sounds like, classic case of, good intentions.
Well, and let me tell you what happened with the margins tax. One, it got very complicated to figure out. It didn't really hurt really big businesses in Texas all that much, and like I said, since then, the exemption on the gross revenue where you're exempt from it is now at $1 million. But those medium-sized businesses, some of them were really walloped. Now, at the time, I had a business that's since been sold. It was pretty much a wash for me. I paid my old business tax, and my new one was very similar. But certain industries were greeted with a 4 to 8 times tax of what they originally paid, which was just simply unfair. So I had a kind of an aha moment with some of my advisors and think tank people, and I just asked the question one day, what if we just did away with our margins tax? Well, there's always people that want to study these kind of things, and we had this report, and these consultants always seem to come out of Boston for some reason.
That's not good.
It turned out that over the years, if we abolish this margins tax, it could mean a very favorable business climate added to the favorable one we already have. So last session, the 13th session, I introduced a bill to abolish our business margins tax. And by the way, we have enough money in our rainy day fund to cover some of that, most of that, because of the tremendous oil and gas boom we're having with the horizontal drilling and the fracking.
Right, yeah.
Well, I'm sad to say it didn't even get a hearing, but it's something that I will continue to file next session and see where it goes. I think that the idea that you have to pay the state for the privilege of doing business in that state is an old, antiquated idea. I think it's the other way around. With economic development, we actually give incentives to businesses to come move and be there.
He is a Texas...
I want to send up the warning flag to the people of Nevada and say, probably not a great idea, and if you do something like this, corporate relocators look at the overall tax structure very carefully before they decide to relocate. And I think for the good people of Nevada, it's a step in the wrong direction to institute this new business franchise tax.
Senator, we got to get to a break, but you got a few more minutes to stick with us?
Happy to do it.
All right, he is a Texas state senator. That's Craig Estes. He's going to be in town tomorrow at the El Dorado with Nevada Policy Research Institute. The Texas margin tax mistake, why Nevada shouldn't go down that path. Back with more on the Dan Mason Show. It's News Talk 780 KOH.
You're listening to Dan Mason. Weekday mornings at 9, hear the thinking man's thinker, Rush Limbaugh, on News Talk 780 KOH.
Jog with Your Dog is coming up this Sunday, Rancho San Rafael Park, presented by On Command Dog Boarding, Grooming, and Training. It's great fun for you and your dog. 5K fun run, pet expo, optional pet costume contest. All the festivities will start at 9 a.m. Starting line sponsor Kingsborough Pet Hospital will send off the first runners at noon. You can find out more at KKOH.com, including how to save money on the entry fee and a commemorative T-shirt available, too, while they last. Second annual Jog with Your Dog this Sunday. Special guest on the program today, Texas Senator Craig Estes is here. He'll be in town tomorrow at the El Dorado, 11:30 in the morning in the Bordeaux Room. Nevada Policy Research Institute bringing you in tomorrow, Senator, to tell us why the margins tax might not be the best way for us to go. Thank you for the time this afternoon, and looking forward to seeing you here in town tomorrow. Now, the Texas margins tax is a little different than what we're talking about here. We're talking about 2% on anybody who's got more than $1 million in gross revenue. It's a little different in Texas, correct?
Yes, ours is 0.5% to 1%, depending on what type of business you are. The 2% is troubling, but I think that, Dan, I just think that probably even if it was a lower percentage, it would still be a troubling way to go. Now, one thing that I think is very interesting is that, and I just learned this today, is that the Nevada AFL-CIO has come out against this.
Yeah, go figure, huh?
So I think anytime you can get labor unions and conservative people working together on an issue, it's probably not a good issue. And to me, it begs the question, why would the labor unions be against it? And I can only surmise this, that it must be they realize it may kill a bunch of jobs.
That is pretty much what they have said, and that's the universal feeling here. Now, in Texas, it didn't work out the way that everybody thought it would as far as the revenue. You had a lot less revenue that came in, but there are those in your state that still point to that and say, well, see, it's working, and that's really not the case.
Well, and I would take issue with that. I would say Texas has had a strong economy in spite of the margins tax. I think it could even be stronger if we jettisoned it. So, I guess everybody's got their own opinion on that. But as you know, and probably your listeners all know, we've had a tremendous oil and gas boom in Texas. And we have this deal called the Rainy Day Fund that has billions of dollars in it.
Yeah, we used to have one of those here.
Well, ours is bulging at the seams. And I'll tell you a little fact about Texas. Your listeners don't want a Texan to come up here and just brag, but over the last 12 years, we've had 1,100 people per day move to Texas. It's put a real strain on our roads and our water infrastructure. So we're dipping into that rainy day fund for help, at least on the water infrastructure. Having said that, if we do away with the margins tax, we've got enough in that rainy day fund to cover it. And obviously we'd have to do some cutting, but realize in our session year of 2011, we cut our state budget by $20 billion. It was quite a feat. It was tough. It wasn't easy, but it showed me that there's even in an efficiently run government like the state of Texas compared to our federal government.
Yeah, don't use the word efficient with them.
Yeah, there's still a lot of bloat, a lot of waste, and you can always tighten your belt, and that's what we need to do. And that's, I think, one reason that Texas has been successful economically over the last dozen years.
We always talk throughout the country that the biggest driver for business and jobs is the small businesses, the medium businesses, and as you mentioned earlier, the big businesses, they didn't mind your franchise tax, but the small and the medium-sized guys that are really the drivers of this, that's where it hurts the most, correct?
Well, it is, and I'm trying to rack my brain to think about. I worked as a little kid growing up, various places, and I don't think there's anybody that ever gave me a job that didn't have a business, didn't own a business. So that's where the jobs are created, and I was thankful for doing those little odd jobs as a kid. So we've got to make sure that small business and medium-sized businesses are nurtured and protected, and make it as easy to do business in your state as possible. Don't throw up a bunch of unnecessary regulations. Throw out the welcome mat to these companies they're getting tired of the excess regulation and the hostility in places like California. Let me give you one quick example. Sriracha hot sauce. And I've forgotten the town in California. It's been in the news lately. They're going to label Sriracha hot sauce as a public nuisance because when they make their hot sauce in this town in California, it smells bad. Well, we've got several people from the Texas area going straight to that company and saying, we want your hot sauce manufacturing plant in our state.
Yeah, I've seen that story. It's kind of mind-boggling that you could look at something like that and say, oh, okay, jobs, bye-bye, it's okay. It doesn't make any sense at all. And you know, we've got a different situation here in Nevada than you have in Texas because you've had some good fortune with, you know, the oil and the fracking, as you said. You've got a governor who gets it, just like our governor does here. You've got to take care of business. If you want them to come to your state, you got to give them a good reason to come.
Well, I think you're right, and it's kind of funny. I don't know whether any ads have been running here in your state, but in Texas, the state of New York is running ads saying, "Come to New York and open your business, and we'll give you no taxes for 10 years."
Wow.
Well, the immediate question is, well, what about the 11th year? How are you going to tax us?
Yeah, and what about those that are already there in New York? They're the ones that are going to help pay for that, for sure. Texas Senator Craig Estes, thanks for your time this afternoon. You're going to be here tomorrow at the El Dorado, 11:30 in the Bordeaux Room. Nevada Policy Research is bringing it in for tickets. And to find out how you can get involved, you can call NPRI at 702-222-0642. You can email office@npri.org. And, of course, you can check the website, npri.org. Looking forward to having you here in the biggest little city tomorrow, Senator. Thanks for the time this afternoon, and we appreciate it very much.
You bet, Dan. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is the Dan Mason Show, the great one.
They're going to tell you what to do. They mandate it.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk 780 KOH.
Hey, going to be out and about a lot this week. Hope to see you Thursday in Carson City. Senior Service Network's 16th annual senior celebration is happening, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday at the Carson Nugget. Free health and information fair and old-fashioned cakewalk sponsored by St. Mary's. 30s, 40s, and 50s live music, a scavenger hunt, raffles, lots of giveaways, and all the proceeds benefit local seniors. I will be there for a live broadcast on KOH from 9 till noon Thursday. It's the senior celebration. Carson Nugget, I'll have the Port of Subs Patriot Prize Wheel along, too, with my own free goodies for you. Hope to see you Thursday in Carson City at the Nugget on News Talk 780 KOH. John Sanchez and the Wealth Advisors in a few minutes. Stick around for that here on News Talk 780 KOH. I saw this yesterday at thecollegefix.com. Headline, all-you-can-eat taco bars deemed offensive. I said, well, I got to look at that. That just, really? I mean, the sensitivity level in our nation is just whacked. Every year, the sorority chapters of Pi Beta Phi, let me get it right here, they have all-you-can-eat taco bar fundraisers at campuses across the country. It's a charity fundraiser. Traditionally, they have them around Cinco de Mayo. Well, I guess there's a problem. Some Latino students at a couple of high-profile universities complained the events are offensive. At Dartmouth College, they weenied out and canceled the fundraiser outright. And at Stanford, not too far from here, they scrapped it as well and instead did an ocean-themed something. They still serve tacos, but the all-you-can-eat taco bar was apparently deemed offensive. So the nonprofits that are the benefits of these events across the country are going to suffer. Now, the entire concept that an all-you-can-eat taco bar could be offensive is a little bizarre. But is there any malicious intent here? No, of course not. But that doesn't matter. Once somebody decides they're offended, well, then we've just got to stop. So we have a handful of, militant Latino students. That's what collegefix.com called them. They call it cultural appropriation, defined by the Stanford Daily as, quote, actions that trivialize aspects of a culture by not respecting a custom's symbolic significance or the history of a style of dress or other artifact. Apparently the issue is, we have these all-you-can-eat taco bars, and, oh, gosh, somebody was wearing a sombrero. Oh, it's awful. There was a sign at UCLA earlier this month that offered students a guide to a racist-free Cinco de Mayo. And the advice included warning students to not speak their poor high school Spanish on Cinco de Mayo. My goodness. North Carolina State University. Dining services officials apologized for handing out offensive chocolate mustaches for dessert on Cinco de Mayo. The University of Maryland, a couple of Latino students were offended because the dining services staff voluntarily wore fake mustaches and sombreros during their Cinco de Mayo dinner. I mean, we're going nuts here in America. I mean, Cinco de Mayo, let's be honest. Cinco de Mayo is not an American holiday. It's not a holiday at all. Primarily, it's an excuse for people to drink. Okay, that's really what's going on. Americans, Latinos, everybody. We're going to be offended by an all-you-can-eat taco bar and somebody wearing a sombrero? 2 words. Go home. Problem solved. Thanks for listening to the program today. Thanks to our special guest. Bill Sickens was here on Tech Tuesday from wearetechnology.com. And Texas Senator Craig Estes was here just a few moments ago. If you missed any of it, on demand, KKOH.com. Thanks for listening. Back tomorrow at 3 on News Talk 780 KOH.
On air, online, on demand. News Talk 780 KOH. 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 News Talk 780